again, take the crippling gloves off. Yes, we have autism, but that don't mean that we can't move. That don't mean we're not smart, intelligent geniuses. We are all of those things and above. But we have to be given the real opportunities to be able to show our gifts and talent.
The following is a conversation with high-functioning autistic advocate Marcus Boyd. Diagnosed with autism in early childhood, Marcus Boyd spent the first 14 years of life unable to speak. His world was one of foster care, group homes, institutions. He endured homelessness, forced medication, and abuse. For many, that would have been the whole story, but for Marcus, it wasn't. As a music producer and composer, he worked with some of the biggest names in hip-hop, R&B, and gospel. Music gave him an identity, a way to be heard, but eventually he realized his voice wasn't just for entertainment. It was for something deeper, something bigger than his own aspirations. Marcus turned his attention to advocacy. He saw a world that misunderstood autism, a system that too often left people like him behind. So he stepped forward, not just to tell his own story, but to fight for others. Today he works with national organizations, speaks to audiences around the world, and pushes for real change in how society treats autistic individuals. This conversation isn't just about his past. It's about the future of autism, advocacy of inclusion, of what it truly means to listen to those who have been silenced for too long. This is the Autism All-Stars podcast. And now, dear friends, here's Marcus Boyd. Okay, so Marcus, thank you for being here, my friend. I'm so happy to have you on. Let's go ahead and jump right in to your advocacy work. So tell me, Marcus, what does it mean to you to have a voice, and when did you realize you had one?
It means the world to me now because the first almost 14 years of my life, I didn't have one. Not at all. And then when I started to have one, it was at a 2-year-old's level. So it was like the same way a 2-year-old responds, the same way a 2-year-old communicates, and almost literally 6 months away from being 14.
You know, all this stuff is very fascinating to me because I have an autistic daughter. She just turned 8 and she's still nonverbal. And I've heard of, cases like yours where people just find their voice. Like you found yours at 14. I saw another podcast where this other gentleman, he found his at 11. So do you remember anything changing that made you become verbal? And do you remember what your first real sentence you remember saying?
My sisters and my grandmother forced me, and I do mean the word forced. They forced me to be able to speak, and they forced me to get off the crutch of disability. Like I was on the crutch bad because I felt like it was normal. I am different, so I don't have to be great. God made me this way, so I can stay in the place that I'm at. They didn't believe that. They didn't want me to be in that. And, going through speech therapy, having a peer speech therapist for years. And, we was in Grant Park and we was at a cookout and they was playing The Whispers, Olivia. And one of my first sentences was, I love this song.
That's
My
so
first
nice,
word
man.
was music.
And why do you think your first word was music?
Well, because, my grandma played Motown and played Frank Sinatra and played a lot of Spanish music every single day. So, in our household, Soul Train was like having a Bible.
That's nice.
That was what it was. So music was always in my household.
That makes me think of my daughter because when I say she's nonverbal, I don't mean that she doesn't speak. I mean, she does sing. She doesn't, it's above a hum, but it's not like singing the way that you and I would sing. So it's not like full on singing. Were you completely nonverbal and nothing came out? Or were you like that? Were you humming along and singing along even before you became fully verbal? Do you remember?
No. I was completely nonverbal. Nothing came out.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Nothing. It was meant for me to be at this level. It was never meant to be at this level when you got 11 different doctors in 2 different states saying, okay, he's brain dead. He's a walking human vegetable. He will never do A, B, C, D. So don't expect him to do these things.
And let me ask you, when you were nonverbal, and people would talk this way about you, did it register with you what they were saying?
No.
No. Why is that?
I mean, I didn't understand it. I just knew they were talking. I was in my own world. Mentally and in my head, I was in my own world. It was like seeing spots and circles and stars. I was in my own world. They could have been there telling people that I smell bad. I wouldn't know what they said.
Maybe it was better that way, like, and I don't say that to be flippant, but maybe it was better, You never know.
Yeah.
Here's another question. You were in your little world and you said that it was your sisters and your granny that got you out of it. How did they penetrate that world? Because I have a hard time with my daughter getting her
Well,
to get her attention. So how did they penetrate that?
well, I have a sister. Well, I have nine sisters, and I have 10 brothers. So my mom had roaches for children. She just didn't have the normal five or six. She had roaches. So one of my sisters is about 6'9", 6'10". We call her Big Patty. If she tells me to move, sit up, get up, wipe my face, let me tell you something. I'm doing it, okay? She wears almost size 4. It wasn't hard to penetrate me. It was not hard. Um, so it was hard for me to want to read. It was hard for me to want to learn and sound out words. It was hard for me to want to do those things educationally. 'Cause I ain't want to do this stuff. You interrupted my time and Jerry. Why do I gotta learn? I don't want to learn. Let me be the way I am. You saying you better than God. You saying you better than God. God made me this way. Who are you?
Let me ask you a question. My daughter, she was diagnosed when she was 3. When did you get your diagnosis?
At 10, April 12th, 1993. It's like some people remember their first driver's license. Some people remember their first kiss. I remember my diagnosis, April 12th, 1993, Clifton Springs Mental Health Center, in Decatur, Georgia.
Why do you think that date is like seared into your head? It seems like.
It's like a prisoner with a 9-digit jail number. Okay? I don't care. You're never going to forget it. And for me, that's when the Ritalin packs or Depakote, that's when the medication started. That's when the separation started. That's when a bunch of stuff in my life started. And then you have to understand, I just lost my best friend in New York and Brooklyn. He got murdered in my face. And, 10, 10 is the magic number for me.
Your best friend. So when you say separation, were you speaking about him or something else?
No, I mean that my parents went to family court and told them that Marcus is too retarded for us. We don't want him. He's a mistake. He doesn't beat the rest of the children. He just beats Marcus. So if you take Marcus out the home, then he can be a good man that I know he can be. My birth mother didn't fight for me. She wanted to get me away.
And is this when you entered the foster system?
I got in the foster system at about 3.5, 4 years old because my birth father broke my ribs in 3 different places and was pistol whipping me with a gun.
Let me
Because
ask you a question.
I,
Go ahead.
oh sure,
No, no, go ahead. No, I'm sorry. I thought finish up this. This is a good story.
because I was different. So when I used to, my brother's playing basketball, my dad trying to teach him football and basketball, he couldn't teach me because I'm slobbing on myself. I'm using the bathroom on myself. I'm rocking. I'm having sensory issues in public. I'm scratching and biting people at 3, 4 years old. I'm different from my brothers. So he couldn't do the same thing with me as he could do with them. So that just, and then you got this man there's 22 kids. He got a, he got a regular job. He's not making enough money. You got to put a roof and feed 22 kids. Then one of your children have this situation or challenges going on.
2 kids. You mentioned like money, and I'm in this Autism Dads group, and about 80% of the conversation is money, just because it's just everything's so expensive, and I can only imagine with 22 kids the financial burden. How did you feel about going to foster? Were you relieved? Even though it's your family's still your family. Like, how did that feel being sent to foster?
I got sent to Dr. Carr's house first because she was an intern with the social work office in Atlanta, Georgia. So she went to high school with my birth mother. So instead of just me going to a stranger's house at first, they put me in her house. This is before HIPAA laws and everything else because, I'm 42 now. So this was years ago. I enjoyed it because I love Dr. Carr with every fiber of my being. but I did not enjoy it when I got in my first foster home. Did not enjoy it at all. And then I'm nonverbal. And then at that time, they was getting yellow checks for $2,400 a month. For one foster child, you got $2,400, $300 in clothing voucher, plus you got food assistance. One foster child. So the foster parents didn't need to work. Why did they need to work? They get $2,400 a month.
Yeah. And this was in Mississippi, or was it New York?
No, this was in Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta. And, back then things were even cheaper than, now things are pretty expensive, but back then things were still, that was still decent money per kid anyway.
Yeah, the money was supposed to be for me, but foster parents, they use it on their kids, themselves. I mean, that's what it was.
Let me ask you something. You've been through a lot. I don't want to give words to it because it should be like your own words. But, if the Marcus, the Marcus today could go back and talk to that Marcus back then, what do you think that you would tell that?
It's not your fault that Tony passed away. You can't do nothing to save him. It's not your fault that your uncles touched you every Friday. It's not your fault. It's not your fault that your family gave you away. One day, you will be a voice that everybody will hear. One day, people will appreciate and value. You have to go through these trials because you have to become stronger and be a bigger purpose for God.
It seems, I'm going to say it. It seems like you did a lot of suffering, especially when you were a little boy, and not just physically, but also mentally and spiritually. Let me ask you, Mark, in your mind, what is the relationship between suffering and meaning in your life?
Suffering and what?
Meaning. We all give things meaning. Did you put any meaning in it?
Well, at that time, I didn't know why my uncles wanted to rape me every single day for 4 years from 12 to 16. I didn't know I was in a mental institution. I didn't know why my family didn't want me. I didn't know why I was in foster homes or being homeless at age 7. I didn't know none of this stuff. I just wanted a family who loved me. I didn't care what color they were, where they came from, what money they got. I just wanted somebody's mom to hug me because I was tired of seeing kids getting hugged and kissed by their moms and nobody wanted to hug and kiss me. What makes me so different? But I will say that pain and meaning are brothers and sisters. You cannot go through pain without a meaning. God put us on this earth not just to reap the benefits materialistically, but He put us on this earth to strengthen us spiritually. And if we don't go through storms, then how are we ever going to learn how to vacate and how to bypass a storm? We have to get taught first before we become teachers.
We had a conversation earlier on the phone, and you were talking about, or maybe it was on one of your websites, that family is like your strength or your superpower. And I'm curious, when I saw that, I think I read it in your website, or maybe it was on Facebook. When I saw that, I was wondering, are you talking about a new family or your old family? Have you built bridges with your biological family?
Sometimes, you have to leave bridges where they are. If they burnt, you can't repair them. So with a lot of my birth family, those bridges are not repaired. Unfortunately, with my birth mother, somebody recently showed her a magazine that I'm on the cover of, and she instantly told that friend of hers that's my son. So it took you 37 years to realize I'm your son. You didn't realize I was your son when I was 3, 4 years old. You didn't realize I was your son when had my ribs broken, and instead of you coming to the hospital, you was bailing your husband out of jail. You didn't realize I was your son then. So let's keep the same energy. I forgive you. I forgive your actions, but I don't have to deal with you. And yes, I'm talking about a new family because what God takes away from you, He replenishes.
We've talked a little bit, and you're talking now about faith and God. And I think that you and I are on the same page about most of this. But was there ever a time when you almost lost your faith?
Sir, it was more than once. Let me tell you something. You don't understand. I tried to commit suicide 54 times in my 42 years. You understand what I'm saying? I done had liquid charcoal down my throat. So much. that I think is really good. Like I'm telling you, there's a reason why I'm still here. Because I tried. I done tried to hang myself, breach, pills. I got hit by a car. I mean, I tried. I shot myself. I tried.
And I mean, you've done a lot of stuff with your life and you're still a pretty young guy for all the things that you've done. And, you were in the hip hop business, you were in fashion, and now you're doing your advocacy work. Is that why you think that you're still here for the advocacy?
Almost 8 years ago when I became an autism advocate, because I didn't instantly become a global activist. I was an advocate. I wanted to speak my story and help other people with autism in that process. So I was an advocate. I didn't, I didn't know that I was going to be an autism advocate. It was just placed on my lap, if you will. So I had to run with it because I realized it was bigger than me. It was not about me and my story. It was about millions of people who have untold and unheard stories in autism. Somebody got to help to be a voice. Somebody got to try to help fight for them. Let's put me aside. It's about them. It's about the next generation.
Marcus, when you say it was placed in your lap, what do you mean by that?
Listen, okay, I don't know if you ever been to Atlanta, Georgia, but Highway I-285 is a big old circle. One of my female friends that grew up with me from childhood, I was trying to go to Walmart. She got a son that's severe autism. He's nonverbal, and she wanted me to go to her church and tell my testimony. At that time, sir, I'm DJing fashion shows. I'm in I'm in the studio with major music artists. I'm doing my thing. You want me to tell these people at your church that I urinate and defecate on myself? You want me to tell these people that I've been on more medications than any drug rehab recipient? You want me to tell these people that that my family disowned me because I have autism and they don't know how to deal with my difference? And I'm in the culture out in Atlanta. It's popping. No, first of all, I only asked to go to Walmart. How do we get on autism from Walmart? So she basically kicked me out of her car and told me if I didn't want to tell God's blessing over my life, then I could walk back to my apartment from Highway 285.
So I'm going to take a leap of faith here and say that you're probably very thankful and grateful to that friend of yours.
She's still a part of my team currently. That was almost 8 years ago.
I'm curious now, if this friend hadn't have given you that ultimatum, where do you think you would be right now?
Dead, dead.
Yeah. I think that your friend, with the help of God, put you on the path you're on, because anything else, anything that's not like faith based in this world, eventually just ends in our personal destruction. I really believe that. So let me ask you a question about the meds, because this is something that I often wonder. What was your personal experience? Okay, when you were put on meds, do you think it was for your benefit or for the benefit of the people around you?
Oh no, no, no. They told my grandmother. You have to understand, my grandmother was 4'9", 4'10". She had 24 children. The doctor told my grandmother that if by putting him on this mood stabilizer, that's what they called it back then. They said if we put him on a mood stabilizer, stuff like Ritalin, Paxil, Depakote, 200 to 250 milligrams, twice to three times a day, then you will be able to control him better. He won't have these outbursts. He won't have these anger flare-ups. He won't have these temper tantrums. You will be able to basically tell him what to do and he will listen the first time. I know you're like that, huh, Miss Boyd? You tired and stressing yourself out trying to figure him out. So let's put him on these medications and let's put him inside of our quote unquote hands. We can pay you a stipend, Miss Boyd, if you leave him with us. We pay you a stipend, monthly stipend. That's the best thing.
It sounds like abuse to me. Is what it sounds like.
Mhm.
Georgia, Florida, we're pretty far away, like geographically. Is the system still like
Mhm.
that there? It just seems like these kids are just like an ATM machine almost. Is it still like that there, or do you think things have changed?
I pray things have changed. But, again, the world is round. So what used to be might come back around. So I pray things are changed. I pray things are better. I pray they're not still doing electrical shock therapy for refusal of pills. I pray that they just not throwing you in quiet rooms and putting straight jackets on you because they can't handle your behavior or your mood or your temper. I pray those things have changed and a lot of it.
Yeah. I remember seeing some articles about that treatment. There was a treatment that somewhere, it's been a while, I forget, but they were passing laws against the straitjackets and the electrical shock treatment. So, God, I hope that that's behind us.
I experienced electrical shock therapy. I experienced the straight jacket. Hmm.
Let me ask you a question. If you could, I mean, I'm sure you've got like some, I mean, I think you might have somebody in mind from those times that, whose face or memory is like seared into yours, that did these things to you. If you could go back now and talk to those people, what would you tell them?
Before or after me wanting to pee on them. Let me stop. But what
You
I
know,
will say, just being honest, but what I will say to them is you don't know if this will ever work for me or if it ever did work for me. You took your power, you took your control, and you tried to force fear. You didn't force love. You tried to enforce fear as a way of correction. You didn't force understanding and patience. So because of that, you caused many and many years of my life to be horrific, to be depressed, to be suicidal, and for me to feel like I'm less than of a person. Once you mastered in taking my worth away from me, you took my worth away from me. I had to figure out how to get that back.
how did you get it back?
God, faith, and a very strong village. Sometimes when you don't have your blood family around you, God gives you people that He sees fit to help push you to your purpose.
I think that that's something that people don't think enough about is the village. And then for men is the brotherhood of being around, you know, just dads or autistic kids like yourself, and I'm talking about like men, like the brotherhood. Um, so when you talk about your village, like, what do you mean by that?
I mean, like I have, God bless me now to have, new mothers, new fathers, new brothers, new sisters, new aunts and uncles and cousins, new best friends. When people didn't want me, I don't have to constantly go back to the same mud puddle and ask them, will they clean me up? They not. They've been seeing me in the mud. They never get me out of that mud. But now I got people that'll help clean me up from the mud.
You know, if there's another kid or girl, in your shoes, how would you tell them to like find their village?
First of all, I would tell them this. If you don't have a strong relationship with Jesus Christ or God, if that's not your spiritual person, then whatever is your spiritual being, you need to get a strong relationship with your spiritual higher power. Period. Because you have to build up your faith. They don't care that you have autism in this world. They don't care. They'll still put handcuffs on you. They'll still do you wrong. They'll still mistreat you. They'll still bully you. They'll still cyberbully you. They will still do whatever they can, regardless of challenges or situations you're dealing with. If you don't know God as your for yourself, then you already batting 1,000. You already losing. You have to put Him first. And then yes, that sounds like a Hallmark card. It sounds easier than done. This is a struggle out here. And if we don't prepare these autistic children and teenagers, then when they become autistic adults, they will have 10 times of a harder problem.
Okay, like here's the thing I struggle with, like with autistic kids, is that it's a spectrum. So like some are high function like you, others are like my daughter, where like I still can't penetrate. So like when you're talking about preparing these kids for adulthood, like what do you have in mind?
I mean, like I understand, your daughter has a different way of communicating, but yes, you are focused on her communication. You are focusing on how she's going to operate in school, how she's going to operate in a daily task in society. But again, as you know, you have to prepare her, teach her how to cook, teach her how to do stuff, even if she's going to live at home for the rest of her life. She may not live at home for the rest of her life. We don't know her future. We don't know God's plan. But if we don't teach her what she will need in this world, we already double crippling her. We are already double crippling her because you're crippling her because you're holding on too tight. You're crippling her because you won't allow her to breathe and live her life to the fullest. So we have to prepare her before for what might come. Again, I was on the streets on my own at 14, 13, trying to figure things out in the project. You don't want her to be me. You understand what I'm saying? You have a good village, a brotherhood. You have a good family structure behind you and your child. You're not my birth parent. So teach her how to achieve. Teach her how to excel in this world, regardless if she had autism.
Let me ask you, like, and I'm asking, like, for my daughter. Let's say that she becomes more functional, right? And if she could take away one lesson from your journey, what do you think that lesson would be? What would you want her to take away from you?
That faith is the strongest medicine that you can take.
Faith in God.
Yes, and faith in yourself. Because faith without works is dead.
Yep. I think that without God, there can be no self faith either.
Yep.
When did you find God?
Well, I ain't have no choice. My grandma was very old school. So she only had Soul Train TVN on her channel, on her TV. So she was at church, boy, did she was asleep. So we, we didn't have a choice. That was it. It was, it was church. Some of my family found the streets with church, but you going to church. I don't care. I don't care if you found the club afterwards. I don't care. I don't care. You going to church. That's just what it was.
I'm gonna just take it that you're thankful that Granny got you into that.
I am. But even in church, a lot of crazy stuff happens. It does. Church does not shield you from craziness. So she tried. That's all I can say. She tried.
Yeah, with that many kids, I mean, it's hard. I mean, it must have been really hard. And she, being as small as she was, having like your sister around, like goodness, your sister's a giant. So 6 foot at 6'10", that's a big girl, man.
That's a big girl. That's why she's been in the correctional field since she was 17. She's in her early 50s. Yeah.
Let me ask you, because you know, I don't want to seem selfish, but I always think about my daughter, and part of the reason that I started this podcast was, I consider myself a searcher in the sense that, I'm searching for answers for her. And then I hope that the answers I find for her will help somebody else as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I think about like, when, when she's older, let's say she becomes more functional, I think about like marriage and family for her, and I'm wondering like, if I'm projecting, if I shouldn't project. I mean, if you were, if you were a dad like me in my shoes and you had my daughter, like, would you be projecting a future for her, or would you like, how would you
Yes.
view her? You would. Okay.
Yes. Automatically. First of all, I'm really going to work on this book that I've been wanting to write. It's called Dating with Autism. Don't you let your son jump off that porch. So the thing, the thing is, I didn't know I was going to ever have a girlfriend. I didn't know I was ever going to have those type of experiences. Come on now. How do you tell a woman, hey, I just slobbed on myself and used the bathroom on myself. Go ahead and pass the piece. I mean, that's, that's not in the same conversation. You understand what I'm saying? And then Atlanta, please. At that time, Freaknik was going on, 93, 94, 95. Freaknik was going on. Everything was popping in Atlanta. Nobody had time to even say I was cute. I had a lazy eye. I'm fat. So what I will say to you as a father is this. Whether she actually dates, don't date, whether the future holds, you have to see and let her experience life just as normally as any other child. Because she may date, she may not. You understand what I'm saying? So in this situation, even with autism, it's like gambling. That's why I like to gamble, because I've been gambling with my autism all my life. So it's like gambling. You don't know what you're going to get. You just know you threw the dice.
So let me ask you about this book, Dating with Autism. What do you hope to accomplish with that book?
Well, it's going to be funny stories. It's going to be wisdom. It's going to be insights. It's going to be activities that single people can do. and activities in the book that couples can do. It's going to give lessons of what happens when you date with autism. Prime example, I'm trying to date this girl. I'm 19 years old, and I say, ma'am, I have autism. Is it like HIV? If you hug me, will I catch it?
It
So,
seems almost
I had to flow
impossible.
real hard.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe it.
I'm telling you, I have stories, okay? But when somebody else is ignorant, you have to deal with them being uneducated.
Do
So
you
you
think
have
that's,
to
I mean,
educate them.
I see it changing, at least in Miami. Maybe things are, we live in a big country, so things are different, but I see things changing in
Right.
Miami. How do you see things over in Atlanta?
I mean, I see stuff changing, and it's a step-by-step process because people are still not really understanding autism. People still not understanding what you can and cannot do with it. And let's just get the facts out, okay? Let's kill myths. Just because your child got autism, no, your wife did give that child autism. Yes, it's in some cases it's not. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody's case is different. So you can't blame your baby mom, you can't blame your granddad, your mama, your dad. You can't blame people because your child has autism. And then let's stop this. What my child gonna do because my child got autism? The same thing they was doing before you got their diagnosis. That's exactly what they're gonna do. They do the same things. It's just yes, they have situations and challenges and they may move different. They may communicate different. They may learn different. They may understand differently. But that don't mean they can't touch their greatnesses because they have autism. Stop using autism as a way to have a super crutch on your child.
Speaking of crutches, like, my daughter, she's diagnosed, and
Mm,
there's no doubt that she's autistic. My boy,
mm-hmm.
he might be Asperger's, but my wife and I, but he's high functioning. Like, he goes to school, he gets good grades, he speaks very well, but there's just like some behaviors that are, just
Mm-hmm.
like aggression and stuff. And my wife and I, we decided not to have him officially diagnosed for that reason, that we want him to just be another little boy instead of a diagnosis. And so we just decided not to have him diagnosed.
Well, if you and your wife can deal with the behaviors that's shown, if y'all as a family, your village can keep that in the circle, then by all means, keep it in the circle. Because I love therapists. I love social workers and stuff of that nature. Matter of fact, my queen is a social worker. She's a guardian ad litem. She does a lot of stuff with children. I love these, positions. But if you take your child to one of them, they're gonna get paid, and your child gonna get medication. So the thing is, let's try to keep this in house if you can. Not saying that children don't need those type of services because some of them do. Every case is different. But if you and your wife can control and manage those behaviors from your son, then let's keep it at home.
Yeah, he's manageable. I mean, he's going to be 6 in a little bit. So even though he's very aggressive, very physical, and sometimes violent, like, I'm much bigger, so I can still handle it. Hopefully, that will continue as he gets older. But yeah, we're not going the diagnosis route, and we're not going to medicate him ever. And yeah,
Yeah,
so
don't medicate him because I had aggression problems. I was doing desk chairs. I was doing my feces. I was peeing on people. That was my thing. I was peeing on people. Golden showers. So, that was how I reacted. I was trying to fight people all the time. Perfect strangers. Scratch their eyes out, jump on their back. I was doing a lot of stuff. I wasn't this side jumping on nobody's back. I wasn't this side. But that's what I was doing as a child. And unfortunately, I didn't have people that understood that. They just medicated me, isolated me, and made me feel really bad about the behaviors that I was displaying.
let me ask you a question, because like my boy, he's very aggressive. Like, where did your aggression come from? Like, what was it that just, like, I mean, I'm trying to understand my boy, like,
Well, again,
why he's that way, and
right,
like, where did it
right,
come
right.
from for you?
For me, again, your son has a good father and mother. Mine came from separation. Mine came from seeing my best friend at 10 murdered. Mine came from constant rape from my uncles. Mine came from my situations. And again, in some cases, it can come from kids with good homes. Saying that every case is different. But my case is because I didn't come from a good home. Nobody wanted me. And I never understood, even when I did the adoption lines and they gave me the clip-on ties with the penny loafer shoes. Again, I'm showing my age. I said penny loafers. So the thing is, those adoption people didn't want me. I wasn't light-skinned. I didn't look like El DeBarge. And back then, dark-skinned people was not getting no play. So I didn't look like El DeBarge. I didn't have curly hair, and it was not picking me to be a dog. So it's almost like a dog in a pound.
What do you mean
Nobody
by
wanted to
dog?
love me.
Oh, okay.
You
I
know, as
understand.
an adult, I still suffer with that about people loving me. I have abandonment issues.
You were talking about these girls asking very silly questions about autism, if it's catchable, like it's a disease or something. Speaking of misconceptions, to you, what is the biggest misconception about autism that keeps you up at night?
That autistic people are not smart enough to function, to think for ourselves, to make our own decisions, to be able to function on our own. Yes, we may need help, but we're not crippled. Please understand there's greatness with every person who has autism. There's autism great out here. Dr. Temple Grandin, Carrie Margot, the blind gentleman on America's Got Talent, the Brown brothers. I mean, the judges, the NASCAR driver. I mean, there's so many people. There's so many people that's great that have autism. Actors, actresses. We have to, again, when a parent get a diagnosis, you need to be praising and worshiping God. You need to be excited because God blessed you with somebody that's different. He didn't bless you with the same 10 kids that's next door that does the same thing. Read, go to school, jump, play basketball, and cheerlead. He gave you somebody that's different. Somebody that got their own mind. Somebody that got their own creativity and uniqueness. Yes. Somebody who got their own superpower. And some people don't believe autism is superpowers. I get it. Everybody has their own belief. But Marcus's autism, that's my superpower. You can't tell me I ain't a superhero. I don't care.
This is a silly question. If you were one of the Avengers, which one would you be?
Oh, man, that's not a silly question because if I was one of the Avengers, I want Hulk. I want
The
Hulk
whole,
all day long. I want the Hulk all day long.
okay, speaking of Hulk
Because if I
and
don't
your
get no
aggression,
rights,
how is your aggression now?
how's my aggression now? Sir, I'm old, okay? Even my bones hurt, literally, okay? So, I'm 42. Ain't nobody got time for an aggression. I'm old, sir. I'm trying to take vitamin pills and be, you know what I'm saying? Nobody, no, listen, I was doing that with my 20s and my teenage years. I'm just trying to help spread a positive message and help every person who has autism as I can.
Okay, speaking of helping people with autism, let's talk about your work. Like what does your advocacy consist of?
Honestly, I mean, Zoom meetings, phone calls, conferences, different government officials in different states, different mayors, governors, lawmaking individuals. We trying to push laws and rights and benefits that will affect not only the current generation but the next generation. That would be beneficial.
Let me ask you, if people want to join the cause or your cause, what would I mean? Because like me, I'm in Miami and you're in Atlanta, so we would just geographically have like a limited contact. What would you recommend to people to do, like I guess locally, to advance the cause? I'm curious as
If
an
you want to
autism dad, like
join
what
the
can I do?
if you want to join the cause, you can spread the message of autism acceptance, not awareness. Autism acceptance. Tell your personal story if you have a child with autism, if you yourself have autism. If we continue to hear powerful, inspiring, embarking stories, soon somebody will listen. You make your city listen. You make your city see what you can do with autism. Don't cripple yourself from greatness. Run towards your infinity and run towards greatness.
Marcus, you said acceptance and not awareness. Can you unpack that for me?
Sure, because if I can make you aware of something, like Mr. Victor, I made you aware that it was $4 for $5 at Wendy's. It was $4 for $5 at Wendy's. I made you aware of that. But you don't have to accept what I made you aware of. See, we have to start with acceptance because autistic individuals need better jobs. They need better housing. They need better money. They need better teaching skills. They need better reality and training. We have, again, take the crippling gloves off. Yes, we have autism, but that don't mean that we can't move. That don't mean we're not smart, intelligent geniuses. We are all of those things and above. But we have to be given the real opportunities to be able to show our gifts and talent. So if you accept us, not just make us aware because it's Autism Awareness Month. No, this is an everyday, 7 days a week, 365, every second lifestyle. So if you're not trying to better our culture, then keep your mouth off the culture.
So Marcus, we talked about relationships and all that. If you had an autistic child, like how would you approach your fatherhood?
If I had an autistic child, how would I approach my fatherhood? Simple. The same way that my villagers approach me. He would be a smaller me anyway. Lots of hugs, lots of kisses, lots of understanding, lots of talking, lots of staff meetings, that my queen like to call them. Lots of staff meetings and, lots of patience because I don't want my son to go through what I went through. I didn't want him to feel like he was a boy with no voice. I wanted to amplify his voice consistently.
Yeah, speaking of, I saw that video, the link you sent me, or I looked it up on YouTube.
Yeah, the boy with no voice. But
The Boy No Voice. You also mentioned before that you're doing another movie, a longer one on your life. Can you tell me about that?
yes, I am doing a 2-hour feature film. It's called The Marcus Boy Story in Autistic State of Mind. It'll be a 2-hour feature film that Nas Panky and Andrew McAllister from Beast Mode Entertainment in Atlanta, Georgia is writing the script for currently. So, that is being worked on. My cyberbullying short film is called The Cyberbullying, The Experience of Marcus Boyd. Award-winning film director Tina Bridges from TLB Productions is doing that with her team in Atlanta, Georgia currently. So, because I'm an open book, I'm not scared to talk about my downfalls, my accolades, my, my, my good stuff, my down stuff. I'm not scared. I'm an open book. I don't care.
When is that gonna be out, Marcus?
I know that the cyberbullying short film, I know they're currently working on that. It could be out by April or May. And then the 2-hour feature film, we're looking for that to be out 2026.
The cyberbullying one is gonna be in April. Is that gonna be also on YouTube like the other one you showed me, or
Yes,
yeah? Okay,
yes.
good.
It will be on YouTube and film festivals and different platforms of that nature.
Yeah, you've got to send me all the links to that because I want to put in the show notes, and also I just want to keep tabs on you because I really like your story, and it gies me hope for my daughter.
Just like this morning when I got shot, I promise I wake up to this stuff. I just won the Stellar Business Award there out of Tampa, Florida, and I beat 10 other companies and individuals in Florida, in Florida, Mississippi, Colorado, New York, and Atlanta that deals with autism. And they awarded me the best motivational speaker and mental health.
Very nice.
And that just happened
Congratulations.
this morning.
Congratulations. You deserve it.
That makes my 11th.
But who's counting, right?
I am.
That's right. That's right. Keep tabs for yourself. That's good, man. That's good. I'm proud of you, and that's super awesome. Let me ask you, Marcus, if there was like one final thought that you want to share with the audience before we sign off, something that hasn't been said yet that you feel in your heart that needs to be said, what would it be?
We look at other people's success and we look at our own situations and we may feel like, well, I'm not there yet. You on the road. You on the road. Listen, anybody who has autism that may watch this, hear my voice or whatever, understand the village that you are a part of. Understand the community that's attached to you. You are winners. You are geniuses. You are intelligent. You're smart. You can do anything with God or your higher power. When you put them first, when you put your village first and your family, many doors are going to open for you. Don't worry about the doors where people say no. Don't worry about challenges and trials and tribulations. because they're going to come. What I want you to do is learn from your trials, learn from your tribulations, use them as stepping stones because the purpose and the greatness that God got for you, oh my God, you just don't know because I was a little boy with no voice. I was a little boy that was raped constantly. I was a little boy that was horrifically abused. Now, as a man, I'm an international keynote, well-respected speaker who has autism. If you allow yourself to go through your journey and your storm, watch what's going to be on the other side.
Speaking of the other side, I mean, I kind of already know the answer to this, but do you think you already arrived?
No, whatever purpose and destiny and destination that God has for me, I'm on the road there. The GPS said I'm finally traveling the right way, but I haven't made it to the destination yet.
Marcus, my brother, let me ask you a question. When you arrive at the promised land, what do you think? What's it going to look like to you?
I hope when I arrive at the promised land, I hope it's this limited buffet of fried rice, rice with butter and gravy, and some liver, some financial abundance, and the world full with loving, accepting individuals that has autism.
Oh, beautifully said, my friend. Beautifully said. Well, let me tell you, man, as a dad who's in the trenches with his daughter who's got autism, speaking to people like you gives me a lot of hope. You've been through like a very tough journey, for a reason. I mean, I don't want to sound flippant about it because, when you don't go through that yourself, it's very easy to say, oh, it's all for a greater purpose and it made you a better person. You went through it for some reason. And, you came out the other side like whole, like you're a whole man. When I speak to you on the phone, I see what you're doing. I'm like, man, this guy, you're doing pretty good.
Thank
I'm
you.
like, you're welcome. I'm proud of you, and I'm glad to have met you. And I hope that we stay in touch for many years. And when you come to Miami, I got your back, brother. I'm looking forward to it.
Listen, I'm coming to Miami. Don't play games. I'm coming.
I ain't playing games, bro. I ain't playing games. When you come to Miami, I got your back. I'll take you to Little Havana. We'll get some good old-fashioned Cuban food. But Marcus, man, this is it's been great. I'm honored that you came on the show. I'm super proud of you, all the stuff you're doing. I'm so happy that these films are coming out soon. I'm glad that Miami is on your radar. Man, we'll see you when you get here, bro.